feel it's something in our community that's been always a struggle, and it's there, and I feel like it's not really expressed as much. There's a lot of people who are homeless, and it's just so much that I feel we're not even paying more attention to it, and somebody needs to really speak about it. I've seen like statistics while I was doing my research, and it's just been growing, and I feel horrible about it. Just seeing people when I drive anywhere, like even in my area, in Carmel, I start seeing now people with these signs, and it's just really, like, it tears me. I don't like seeing that. I know it's just like, I wish there would be more things we could do about it. It's something that's, it's not necessarily hard if everybody can come together and work for this. I feel it'd be much easier to kind of maybe provide these people an education or somewhere to stay. And I really hope this story has you guys be put in their shoes to really see what they go through, and I hope that there's something that we can do about it soon. So I hope you guys enjoy this. So I wrote, I'm on survival mode all the time, says Linda Contreras, who has lived in Salinas for 43 years and has been homeless since 2010. She looks after her young grandson and 3 cute mutts and her companions. Contreras says she's been homeless since her eldest son passed away in 2010 and feels lucky to have somewhere to stay temporarily. When she doesn't have a bed to sleep in, and sometimes she does when she stays with friends or acquaintances, she lives in her van. And I actually went there and I tried interviewing her a few times. She's such a sweet lady, and it's so sad that this happens, and it's a reality in the world that some people face. Moving on, that I said, outside Sherwood Hall is where the sweetheart Contreras opened up to me. She's in her late 50s with soft, tan skin and short and curly dark hair. On this day, she wears a yellow tank top, jeans, and sandals. I really can't even think about tomorrow at all because I'm so worried about this time right now. Where I'm going, what's going to happen, she says. So you can't plan anything. You don't know where you're going to be tomorrow. You live day by day. Along the streets, I witnessed homeless people pushing carts, full of clothes, holding their belongings close to them, and making small talk. I wanted to find out more about these people, how they got to where they are, and what happened with their hopes for the future and what they look like in the future. I spoke to 4 currently or formerly homeless people. All who are involved in the community are homeless activists. Linda Contreras, Fred McCall, Dolores Resendez, and Wes Wyatt, all sat down with the Monterey County Youth Media Project to discuss homelessness and the bigger picture. How to survive in a community that often seems to want them gone. Life is life, and what we're doing right here is living the best we can, says McCall, who describes himself as a community enthusiast and his familiar presence around Salinas. He's a tall black man with dreadlocks and a leather jacket, and usually sports dark sunglasses and a beret in the traditional reggae colors of red, yellow, and green. When asking Contreras if she felt safe in her current living conditions, she teared up, saying not all the time. I spoke with 50-year-old Dolores Resendez, who was once homeless. I asked her what her perspective was like as a woman on the streets. And it's a lot of violence on the streets, she said. It's what it is. It is what it is. Every day is a hard life. I've been homeless before, trying to afford housing, find a job, and getting a car. She mentioned to me that she had a daughter she strongly loves, and when asking about her daughter, I learned they both experienced homelessness. My daughter was homeless with me, Resendez said. I used to take care of more children as well, because parents abandon their children and someone has to pick them up after the feet. To find out more about the homeless community and struggles they are facing, I also spoke with White about self-described community enthusiasts. White knows firsthand what it's like to be homeless because he was once homeless. He is a familiar presence around Salinas, armed with a video camera, who goes to local public meetings, including school board meetings and city council meetings, videotapes them, and posts those recordings on their YouTube channel. He's also running for Salinas mayor against incumbent Joe Gunter. I lived in my car for 6 months when I first got here in 2011, White says. I used to shower at Harnell, hoping nobody would notice. I later came back to Salinas and I couldn't afford it, just got out of a divorce and was trying to see my kids. White said he wants to continue helping the homeless. The more places you go, the more you start realizing we're just a very immature country, immature society, and immature world because we're consumers and self-centered, he said. I participated in the 6-month protest in front of City Hall back in 2016 after filing a federal lawsuit against the city of Salinas and about storage of personal property ordinance. One, because city retracted the ordinance and made a new one. White said he isn't sure how many housing rules he would change if he wins the mayor's race. What we really need is a business and a community, the attitude and mindset of people to change. Our commerce and levels of violence would go down if we become more concerned with others' feelings and well-being rather than what's in their wallet and what one might be able to take out of that wallet. In fact, people like reciprocating so the money of those wallets would flow more toward the money-hungry who chose a higher level of respect for people, not merely just potential customers. We're a nation of cannibals. We hurt the ones closest to us for their selfish gain. We use before we care to find out what friendship and love means to us. And we will do better when we recognize that the world is big enough for the both of us. Listening to these people that I've interviewed and really put a lot of work into this, trying to talk to them, I wasn't afraid of these people at all because they're just like us and they go through a lot every day. They live day by day. And I have a higher respect for them now, learning that it's really not easy, and I've always known it's not easy for them, but I hope that someday, the world can change this and that we could all come together to help these people. Because speaking to Wes White, who's over there, filming, hi Wes. I couldn't be happier to have spoken with them and seen the perspective of others. It's just it's crazy that it's a reality, and I hope it does change.
Priscilla, everybody! A big round of applause for her. Thank you, Priscilla. Like Marcos mentioned, Priscilla was one of nearly a dozen students who participated with us in the Monterey County Youth Media Project. We're very proud of that project, to be contributing with Marcos Cabrera and to be training the next generation of journalists. One day we're not going to be here, but they will be here and they will continue because this is an important work. Journalism is important and they're carrying on the torch, and we're very excited to be doing that. Thank you, Priscilla, and thank you, Yaneli. Another applause for them. Our next participants, we're going to change it up a little bit now. We are going to have now a little play by Amy Rodriguez and Alexis Casas called Las Comadres. And it's a little sketch that is pretty much what we're trying to do today, which is bringing the voices of the Alisal to life. And this performance is going to be about two comadres, dos comadritas, dos amigas, talking about growing up in the Hebron neighborhood. And so give it up for Alexis and Amy, who are also members of Baktun 12.
Buenas tardes, good evening everybody. Como mencionaron, mi nombre es Amy Rodriguez. My name is Amy. I'm a part of Baktun 12, and I'm going to go ahead and start talking a little bit about what it was like growing up in Salinas. Oh, hold on 1 second. Hello?
Hey, Amy, did you hear about this event we're going to do about, community festivals?
Chaco told me, yeah, I'm actually on stage right now. Yeah. Are you coming out? Are you coming? Okay, awesome. You you should just come on by, hacemos un cafecito, we can just go ahead and chat. Are you down? You down?
I'm already out there.
Okay, okay, I will.
Comadre, soy yo te
¿Quieres un cafecito?
por favor.
Okay.
No ves que vamos a tomar, ya estoy lista.
Sabes que no tengo conchas ni nada de eso, pero sí más un cafecito. What do you want in your coffee?
Let's do some, you know what, let's do agave. You got agave?
Okay, good. Anything else? Are you sure?
No, pues no quiero muchas sanguinantes.
Okay, I will. Careful, it's hot.
Yeah.
Well, tell me, how are you?
I'm good. I'm just like, I don't know what should we talk about? You know, like community cuentos. I
I don't know. I was kind of thinking about. I was telling Thiago, I have this funny story. So I grew up in Salinas, and I was born actually in Hebron. Yeah, so out there. And I used to work a lot in my community, and I was out there just doing like the Sabbath marches. Ahí andaba con toda la gente, con toda la comunidad. Y I had heard this story about one of my uncles that he got in some like little argument with somebody, and I got scared. So I was out there marching, I was marching my little heart out in my really big oversized shirt, and I was marching. I was like, okay, awesome, yeah. And then that anxiety kind of kicked in. I was like, oh my God, I don't want to go to jail. I don't want to get in trouble. So you know what? I ran straight home.
How old were you?
I want to say I was about 9 years old. And I ran home. I ran all the way home. I'm going. I get home. My mom asked me, ¿Tus hermanos por qué andas sola? I was like, oh, I didn't want to go to jail. I don't want to get in trouble.
You
So,
told your mom that?
yeah, you know what? But I estaba bien asustada. You should have seen me. I never ran so fast. Never. But yeah, we were out there. Me and my brothers did a lot of community work. We would go after school. Every day after school, we were at Hebron Heights, what they call it now, Hebron Family Center. I know it's Hebron Heights. That was
Once Hebron Heights, always Hebron Heights. Am I right?
We did Go out there. We planted the trees that are out in Travis Park. I helped plant those trees. So
Baby Amy up there planting
So
some trees. Okay.
I did a little bit of work, and here I am today. But what were you thinking about, Sharon?
Okay, well, I'm from Castroville.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so I was raised out there. It's different. It's just like one street, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I know.
But it's Castroville, it's a small town, it was different. I moved here when I was in 2nd grade, so, I definitely saw the difference in community, out here it's like, convivimos más, somos más, más diferentes flores, es un jardín bellísimo, you know what I mean? And out in Castroville, we had the same vibe, but it was much smaller. And here it felt more like communal, more como familia, And it's just like, es diferente barrios, pero aquí Salinas siempre va a ser, right here.
Puro corazón.
Puro corazón. Ahí está, el activismo siempre era algo que corría allí, el UFW también. Ya, aquí empecé, todo ese trabajo con el UFW, right there, like by King Street,
Oh, yeah.
where the UFW office
Yes,
is.
yes.
Volunteer all the time, girl. You gotta always volunteer, you know what I mean? But, gosh, Salinas is always, man, once you're here, you always come back, you know what I mean? And that's what I love about it, like, we get out, we come back to rebuild,
Exactly.
Yeah.
I'm out in UCSC right now, and I live out in
That's
Santa
right.
Cruz. But there's not a day that I'm not out here in Salinas. All the work that I'm doing out there is for my community. I'm coming back. It's all for you guys.
What are you doing now?
Right now, we're a part of B12.
That's right, we were
It's
together,
such
huh?
a
That's
blessing. It's such an awesome, it's not really a job, but it's a job, but it's not a job. It's really great to be able to work with our friends and work on our community. This is our home. And so it's just really great to be able to put in that work and see that work just flourish. because I'm sure that a lot of times, we're talking and we're doing our skits, and I can see it in everybody's eyes that we're touching, we're touching on those, hearts, and so it's really great. It's great to be out here, and it's great to be with our comunidad.
Look at all these beautiful faces.
Yes, thank
Look
you.
around, everyone. Just
Yes.
look at that. Everyone's woke here.
Yeah. Yeah.
Everyone's woke and awake. And, what time is it? Like, we gotta head to the event, bro.
Oh,
we gotta go tell our
okay.
community Cuentos,
gosh,
dude.
yeah.
Oh my God. You know what? We gotta go. Thank you so much
So
for
much.
helping us. Helping us come out.
All right, give it up one more again for Amy and Alexis from Baktun 12. I love seeing Baktun 12 continue to grow, and it's awesome. So, speaking of Baktun 12, we're going to keep the Baktun 12 vibe going with this next performer. He is East Salinas resident, Alisal High School graduate, Baktun 12 founding member. He is a proud father of 3 beautiful daughters and husband to Shauna here in the audience. And he is going to perform some new material that I've been just told is the first element of his soon-to-be one-man stage show. So I'm really excited to introduce my brother performing a piece from At the Rock. Please give it up for Jesus Juarez.
I'm late. I am late to class. You would think, living so close to Alisal High School, I could even hear the morning bell, that I'd make it there on time, right? Man, shoot. I might as well just miss second period too. Just throw it in there. Mexican-American history. I mean, what's there to know? I'm Mexican and American, and I'm making history. Happens all the time. Wow. You know what's such a long walk? The walk was actually about 2 blocks to school, right? Do you think I'd be able to make it? No. There's this hangout here. It's called The Rock. It's safe. I can chill here. And I don't have to go to class. I'm just gonna kick it for a bit. Yeah, I'm just gonna kick it. Mexican-American history? Shh. Yeah, boring old class. And Lopez, what's up with Lopez, man? He's always coming in on me. It's like, turn in this, turn in that, read this chapter, read that chapter. Who does he think he is? A teacher? Okay, so check this out. I'm about to set the scene a little bit. The Rock, it was right behind Alisal High School. There was lettuce fields as far as the eye could see once you sat down right here on the rock. You were chilling, you were posted. There was a ditch that ran parallel to those lettuce fields. It helped support the irrigation and such. Even closer to you there was the old lane. It ran from Frank Paul Elementary to Alisal High School. Man, the old lane, let me tell you about some stories that happened there. We don't want to go there. Okay, so the callecitas that came up to the old lane were Elkington, Kilbreth, Main Street, Tout Street, and Burke Street. Now, what made this spot such a cool hangout is that it was hard for the cops to actually get to you. They couldn't really bust you. I mean, because they couldn't drive their patrulla up on the old lane, right? So if one would come up Burke, man, you just come downtown. And if one would come up top, you just go down Burke. It was just too easy. And check this out. And right behind the rock was his trailer park. It's still there. There was a couple of these trailer parks. These people, these families, they were like our family. They never called the cops on us. And they always seemed to mind their own business. You know, not that we were up to anything bad or anything, but yeah, so we were there at the Rock. We used to sit on this uneven surface with graffiti, generations of graffiti written on top of this rock, you know. The weather, the rain, the winter wouldn't wash some of these taggings away. They were there to stay. So, now that I set the scene even a little bit more, let's talk to Jesucito right here. Let's see what he has going on. He ain't going to class, right? Hey, Chewy! Chewy! How come you ain't in class, bro? Mexican-American history, right? Lopez is your teacher? Hey, bro, did you know Lopez went to Brown University? You know his family home's right over there on Burke Street. Yeah, but you're right here, hanging out, thinking it's all good. You should be in there, in your high school, learning about pyramids that were built in Mexico, learning about Dolores Huerta, learning about Cesar Chavez. But instead, you're here trying to find your next whatever. Llama, Alisal Chewy, get to class. What? Wait, what? What, you interrupting me? Huh? What, Lopez is coming in hard on you? Well, hey, here's this novel idea, kid. Maybe Lopez cares about his students. Yeah! Yeah, maybe Lopez went to Brown University, got some knowledge, came back to his hood, his neighborhood, to help you. But you ain't seen it like that, are you? You think he's out to get you, and you know everything about Mexican-American history. That's not the case. Are you listening? Ah! Oh, shit. I think it's too late. Look! There comes Lopez now, and his class. Yeah, your Mexican-American history class is right there, about 200 yards away. What are you going to do? Look, bro, they're laughing at you. They're laughing at you. How do you feel? Bro, you should have went to class. Thank you very much, guys.
All right, one more time for Jesus Juarez. All right, so we are going to take an intermission now, so we'll go about 15 minutes. There's still plenty of food in the back and drinks, so please help yourself. One note, please, for everyone. I have a couple of students here from Millennium Charter High School that are in my media production class. We would like, we'll be trying to pull aside some of the performers just now to do quick interviews. So if you don't mind, if you could help us out with that, we'd really appreciate it. And you got another announcement?
Yes. Don't forget that we have the Salinas Underground podcast. If you have stories about Salinas or about your community you want to share, please go share them with them. And also, if you feel so inclined to support the work that Voices of Monterey is doing, Voices of Monterey Bay is doing, or Alisal Center for the Fine Arts, or Baktun 12, please give us a donation. There's a donation box in the back. And thank you for being here. Okay.
Also check out the students in the Alisal Center for Fine Arts. They're all running right around the wall, so please mingle, relax. We'll be back in about 15 minutes. Thank you.
I attended ride the bus. And all the way to Alisal High School because there was no Salinas. No Salinas High, no.
No North Monterey County either. And so everybody from Pasadena went to Salinas with the people. There was nothing in Marine.
Alisal.
There was in Marine. Oh, wow.
Yes.
So 1974, you took a school bus?
Yes.
How many people were
We were about 15 to 20 people coming from Asheville, along with my sister and I. We attended there. I was in 1974. I was sophomore. So that year was el movimiento de César Chávez.
Okay, yeah.
Las huelgas, la lechuga, las grapes. So a lot of us friends decided that we would demonstrate. ¿Qué vamos a hacer? No vamos a comer lechuga, no vamos a comer uvas, so nos salimos de la high school. So I was 15 years old at that time.
How did that, because again, nowadays the youth, again, with it's more of the gun control issue, but they're motivated now as well. How did the older generation react to you guys doing that?
Yes, we got in trouble, of course.
Yeah.
Yes, we were in trouble from the school. They actually let us go for a few days. And we got schooled, nos regañaron mucho. No, it was not good. They said it was good that we were supporting, but we should not be leaving the school.
And then back then, was it all like white administration and white teachers and everything, or was there
Well, there was not a lot of it was maybe like, I would say maybe 30 to 40% back then. And back then, you didn't see guns in the schools. You saw knives. They would stop people back then in the 70s, 75 and all those years. Yes, so it was scary. Marijuana was going on too much. You couldn't go to the bathrooms because kids will be smoking.
Yeah, and it's interesting to me because I'm at 31. I was born in 1987. So when you hear these growing up, you hear about the 70s, but you never really heard about the 70s in Salinas. You live in New York City in the 70s or something. So
No, the 70s in Salinas was the lowriders.
yeah.
And they would cruise on Alisal Market, but mostly Alisal.
Yeah.
Probably from all the way to Williams, all that area. I did cruise a few times.
Where would everybody hang out?
Probably the Dairy Queen. Yes. Exactly, because that was the donut shops.
There was more donut shops?
The one on the corner.
Is it as lively? Is it like 10 o'clock and 11 o'clock it's still everybody walking around?
I didn't go that late because my parents did not allow us.
Yeah, you were 15 as well.
Yeah,
They're good parents. That's why you're around here. That's why you're still
why
here.
I'm still here. Exactly. Yeah, so that's a little part of the 70s in the Alisal School District. I was part of it,
So yeah, that's when the whole, again, that Mexican American generation kind of rolled up. And did you guys did you do it because you were hearing people in LA do it, or Watsonville do it, or how did it start? Because there was no internet, there was no Twitter, there was no.
No, there was nothing. We would just go to the street. We would just go to certain corners and just hang out, in your car. There was the Sky Theater, that was there.
We used to be right next to it.
We used to be the flea market. Yes.
I was fortunate enough to remember that. Yeah, the drive-in there.
Yes.
And again, it's now Martin Luther King. So again, I'm so curious. How did you guys all it was all word of mouth? Just like we're gonna do this on Friday, we're walking out or something.
When we went out of school for supporting Cesar Chavez, yes, I actually in March physically with him when he was held in jail, right on Alisal.
Right here, yeah.
Yes.
So what do you think about them trying to turn that into a museum or knock it down or something?
I think they should turn it on to a museum. Yes, he has history. Cesar Chavez was history. Still is history, and he gave it all. He gave it all.
Yeah, the labor movement keeps growing and growing.
Yes.
And the more it goes, he gets more popular on the national level as well. I grew up, again, you just grow up here. Again, I grew up on Laurel, 2 blocks away. So yeah, you grew up here, you just grow up with, the white flag everywhere, UFW, and Chavez, and all that. So,
But being in the Vegas, back then when I actually, my father took us out from school and sent us to work. So I was cutting lettuce at that time when I was 15. And I even was accused of being a spy for Cesar Chavez because the company that I used to work was governmental, and they were Teamsters. So they took me out and asked me questions, if I was supportive of Cesar Chavez and all this stuff. But yeah, this.
and you were 15 when they were asking you this stuff?
Yes, but
You'd be tough there. I feel like at 15 I was completely falling apart. Like, whoa, this is a big...
Well, happiness is that you get tough because when you have to do things, you gotta do them. You gotta be brave. My father did not believe in education for women.
Oh, okay.
So that was one of the reasons he took us from school. My sister, she was temperance. So and he said you gotta go to work. So that's how we ended up in the fields and going through all this with Cesar Chavez. Las huelgas, and they're screaming at you. You want to work, and it was sad. It was really sad.
Yeah, and how did your dad feel about Cesar Chavez?
Oh, he was actually a member. Yes, he supported him. My brothers too. So.
And now do you have your own kids?
Yes, actually, my son is Andrew Sandoval. He's right over there. He's actually running for city council.
I was going to say, I heard that name at a bar in downtown Salinas today.
Really?
Yeah. So, he's going to run. I was like, why did that sound, right when you said it, why does that sound not an endorsement for him, but yeah, it sounds like he's going to run.
Yes.
That's cool. And so did you, and so no daughters?
I do have a daughter.
Did you treat her differently than you were like, all education for you? Like opposite from what your dad?
My husband and I, we both believe in education for our kids very much. And I didn't treat her differently or anything. I treat her the same. I have 3 boys and a daughter. And my daughter just graduated from Lola Marymount. Chicano.
That's so cool.
Yes.
I love it.
She just graduated on May, so I'm very proud of my kids.
Yeah, can't wait till she runs for governor.
Yeah, okay. So that's part of my story for the Alisal district, the Alisal area.
Yeah, so you've stayed around. Yeah, that's cool. You stayed here.
Yes.
And the whole time you stayed here, did you live here?
No, we didn't hear all our lives.
We're going to have an open mic.
This is me. This is my country. This is my city. This is my family. This matter. This is where I'm happy.
Yeah, that's exactly why
Share your story here on the mic.
I'm glad that everybody else we get to talk with it.
So I'm going to introduce you properly for the open mic. So, continue, if you want to share a story, how's everybody doing? Y'all having a good day? Awesome. All right, well, I think that this is an opportune moment to take advantage and sing las mañanitas. The birthday girl. Hey, Claudia. All right, so las mañanitas, yes, it's our Mexican happy birthday. So, if anybody wants to help out
on all the corners, in the back. I think Joe's having an interview over there in the back. We can all just look at Joe and everyone on to maybe give him that awkward cue. And we'll just go ahead and start it. Yeah, so anybody want to jump in? Las mañanitas que cantaba David, cuántas de tus santos te las cantamos así. Despierta, niña, despierta, mira que ya amaneció, ya los pajaritos cantan, la luna ya se metió. Y nacer a felicitarte, el día en que tú naciste, nacieron todas las flores. En la diada del bautismo cantamos señores. Ya viene amaneciendo, ya la luz del día nos dio. Levántate de mañana, mira que ya amaneció.
Speech.
No sigan mis flores. No, ya voy a dejar. Thank you, everybody. I really have no words.
¿Cómo va a ser?
Pero it's beautiful to look out there and see all the beautiful faces. It's just really incredible. Me encanta voltear y ver todas sus caras tan hermosas. El trabajo que todo el mundo aquí está haciendo por la comunidad es un privilegio enorme. It's a huge privilege for me to be part of this community. I love every single part of this, and I'm so happy to be here. And I want to give a special gift to a special person in my life who's here, and obviously I could not be here without her. Mami, te traje un regalo. My mom came from Denver to spend the day with me. Beautiful friends of mine came from Porterville. My beautiful friend Victoria, my teacher, came from Southern California. I have so many beautiful people who travel very far, from all the way from Morgan Hill, Betty, all the way from San Jose, India. I feel like I'm gonna burst and explode with love, and Sofia from Porterville too. La beautiful Sofia. So, muchísimas gracias por estar aquí. Many ways. There's a lot of people out here who are very supportive of the community work that is being done right now for immigration reform, for a lot of good causes that we have. If you are, I'm glad that there's conversations happening right now about other ways to help the community. If you're not one of those people who help the community, please get engaged. We have a very young community here in Salinas that needs a lot of help. There's the adults who work here, unfortunately, have to work very long hours. There's a lot of kids. If you walk around Salinas, El de Alisal, you'll see 1 or 2 women with like 8 or 9 children taking care of them. And so we need more help. So if you can help, if you have time, if you have energy, if you have resources, please give a little bit to our community, because we grow the food that people eat in this country. We deserve it. So thank you for being here, and thank you for making my first
All right, so we're back into the program. Y'all. So, was there anyone out there in the crowd who wanted to come up and share a story? Anyone? Yeah, I'm good. Anyone? I'll do one now. Don't be shy. Now is not the time to be shy. Now is the time for us to share our story. Wes has a story. Give it up for Wes. Why, y'all?
Hello, my name is Wes White. I'm a Salinas resident, community enthusiast, I'm also running for mayor. My story is kind of a lot of people's story. I mean, it's just about survival. We've got people that are on the chopping block right now. We're talking about affordable housing. People live in RVs. There's an oversized vehicle ordinance on its way on the 23rd, 24th, about 70 or 80 people who live, 70 or 80 RVs. So we're talking families that live in these vehicles. Most of them are registered and insured. They're not bad actors. Their vehicles are not dripping. Everything is just already shipshape. It's just they can't afford to live inside a lease. I mean, to be able to afford rent is what, $1,300 just for 1 bedroom? And you're looking at 3 times the rent to even apply. And every place that you apply is $25, $35, $45 just to apply. And more than likely they're going to tell you no. So it's getting harder and harder to survive the way we're going. We value paper more than people, and that is a major issue. What we're going to do is destroy affordable housing. The city of Salinas is more than likely going to follow through with their plan to get rid of all oversized vehicles. That includes tow trucks and buses for migrant workers, not allowed on public sidewalks, the streets, the public property. So if it's longer than 20 feet or taller than 70 feet, it is not allowed within the city of Salinas, and we are the county seat. Which kind of begs the question, who's taking care of these people? The city sloughs it off into saying that it's the county's responsibility to take care of people, yet we're the ones actually destroying their life and making it harder. We're going to bust them down from an RV and make them live in a tent. And they're not allowed to live in a tent, so what's going to happen? I mean, it's so easy. If you love a person, you're going to take care of them. And if you don't know them or you don't like them, you're going to charge them. And a lot of this comes down to cost and charge. And the more community we have, the easier it is to, we won't even have problems. We don't have to worry about that. That's actually where we have the problem. You look at short-term rentals and Airbnb, and I mean, we're privatizing home. And we're selling everything out and selling ourselves up. And that's what we need to be doing. And taking care of each other is where our heart and soul is. I mean, we're spending more money by making it harder for people to exist. People have to go to the doctor on a regular basis, and if you're outdoors, you're more likely to get sick. And then you have to go see the doctor because of that. And who's going to take care of you? Well, Medi-Cal's not going to cover it. Covered California's not going to cover it. As soon as you get in, they're going to send you right back out. Because all those homeless people, they're just looking for a free ride. And, it's very discriminating, and that's what it is. It's open discrimination. The same thing with the migrant movement, the same thing. All these civil rights movements, homelessness is the civil rights movement of our era. And if we don't really start accounting for just worrying about people and making sure that we're all taken care of, there's plenty of space. There's plenty of food. There's plenty of everything. It's just a matter of cost and charge, and we need to start worrying about taking care of each other. And that's what society is supposed to be about. That's what we put our trust in these public servants, and we need to make our servants serve us. So, I don't know, push people to register to vote. We're trying to make a progressive change toward inclusiveness, and not make it about numbers, make it about people. That's what we need to be doing.
All right, thank you, Wes, for sharing that. Now, I'm going to go ahead and share a story that I just wrote for the Salinas, California. And so big shout out to Chelsea Adami here who's the editor at the California. Please give her a round of applause for all of her work that she's doing there. Thank you for showing up today. She gave me the opportunity to write a story about a young man who graduated from Alisal High School, and he recently had a photo exhibit. So Alisal High graduate shines through photos on streets of Salinas. July 24th was declared Ruben Villa Day in Monterey County, a day of celebration for the newest champion born and raised in Salinas. Standing in front of the Board of Supervisors, Salinas' current boxing pride took a moment to acknowledge another up-and-coming talent from the neighborhood. This shirt, I feel like it really represents Salinas, said Villa, pointing to his t-shirt with an image of a young girl on a bike, her amused gaze reflecting dramatically in a rain puddle amidst ominous clouds. Once you make it out of Salinas, it can be a beautiful struggle, and that's the way I look at it. The stark black and white image was shot by photographer Carlos Castro, an Alisal High School graduate and current Monterey Peninsula College student. Similar to Villa, Castro made his name known outside of his hometown, and is now getting an opportunity to shine in Salinas. Carlos Rene Castro, Hidden Treasures of East Salinas, is on exhibition at the CSUMB Salinas Center for Arts and Culture, 1 Main Street in Salinas. Carlos's exhibit really draws in the heart of Salinas, the people, said Jasmine Radier, the exhibit curator. I'm excited for the community to see his captivating photography. When I saw Villa wearing the shirt, I said, holy crap, man, Castro said of his reaction to his former classmate at Everest Alvarez High School. It's big. He didn't have to do all of that. He could have been cleaned out for that day, but he wore the shirt instead. Castro named his exhibition Hidden Treasures of East Salinas somewhat on a whim. It started as a random file name he punched into the Google Drive folder where he started collecting images for a project. One day I was very bored. I was at my parents' store, Super Toys at DC Fashion Mall in East Salinas, he said. I thought I might as well walk around the east side and see what there is to do here. The search for images taught him a few things. First, people were somewhat unnerved by his initial arrival with a camera in hand. Castro next learned the necessity to ignore the anxiety of hunting down the perfect frame. He was determined to show a different side of Salinas. The images are stark and uniquely East Salinas. A farm worker in a wide-brimmed hat, hand on hip, taking a moment to survey the vast fields with the Gavilan Mountains in the distance. A young brother and sister staring out of a laundromat window, palm trees reflecting off the glass surface, looks of curiosity on the children's faces. An elderly churchgoer kneeling dutifully in a pew at St. Mary's of Nativity Catholic Church. The stained glass windows depicting Jesus Christ and Moses. The imagery screaming out loud, even in the muted black and white tone. I like the spontaneous moment when you go back to the developing room. You develop your roll of film. You look at the pictures you took and you go, wow, I shot that? I don't remember taking that shot, he said. This is my heart and my soul that I'm putting into my images. Putting that amount of effort does take a toll. He admits as the exhibit gets closer, his emotions are gathering intensity. He was aiming to have a solo show by the time he turned 21. He will have to find a new goal now that he has beaten that mark by a year. Ever since I started getting into photography, I always imagined my artwork in museums and galleries, he said. For it to actually be happening at 20 years old, it's a dream come true. Well, that's a story about Carlos Castro, who was a Alisal High School graduate and who was also a graduate of the Monterey County Youth Media Project. He's actually out of the country right now. Yeah, give me a round of applause. He's out of the I should say, we had invited them, but if you all have a chance, go down to the Steinbeck Center. I know that the exhibit is on display through the rest of the month, and the images are beautiful. They're absolutely breathtaking. So that's my quick plug for Carlos. Are we ready to roll out the next? Are there some more open micers? Okay, where are the open micers at? All right, you want to come up? Go ahead and introduce yourself when you get up on the stage.
How's it going, everybody? I don't know if we had a time limit. Is there a time limit? Oh, forever. I'm just kidding. My name is Freddie, and I'm a local educator, and I do some theater, and I have a story. So I was in high school, and I met some people that were doing some organizing about this proposition called Proposition 21, and what it did is it kind of lowered the age at which you could try a young person as an adult to 14 from 16, and then criminalized graffiti and made it like a first strike. Just a bunch of bad stuff to put more people in jail. So it passed, but I got a chance to organize with some people in the Los Angeles area. I grew up in Inglewood, and I kind of started to understand like the basic premise of activism, which was there's always a way around things, and don't take no for an answer, and like people will always benefit from telling you no. So just find a way around. So anyway, I had that experience in high school, and then somehow I got into college. Actually, I kind of somehow got into Berkeley because I got thank you. And I'm not proud of the fact that I got into Berkeley, because supposedly it's a good school. I'm proud of the fact that they told me no, and that I got in anyway. So anyway, I got into this college. My sister had gone there, so I talked to her. She helped me out a lot. It's really important if you're like the oldest sibling in a family to set that path and that precedent for the rest of your siblings. Because you're kind of taking on that role that sometimes your parents, if they're migrantes, if they come from a different political system, a different societal system, they're not sure. So that first sibling kind of paves the way. So anyway, speaking of the first sibling, my sister, when she was at Berkeley, she traveled to Spain. She went to Spain. She went to Spain for a year. And in fact, I think she had gone to a college closer to home. But she decided to go to Berkeley because she just needed to get away from home. There was problems at the house. We came from a house that had issues, etc. So she was trying to get away from my dad. So and she ended up carving a whole new landscape for our family, like just in Northern California in general. So that was cool. It was like it's like lighting a path, right? And then once you light it up, like once that light bulb is lit, you can't turn it off anymore. It's just there, like the world is bigger. You've already seen it. And even if you turn the light back off, like you know what's there. You know what I'm saying? So you're gonna go look for a flashlight. Anyway, so I looked for a flashlight. So I had that experience, like when my sister traveled, so okay, it's a given, I'm gonna travel too. I just didn't know where or what. So I was working at the Berkeley Art Museum, literally the most boring place in the world. It was this concrete, like, I don't even know what it was, and the folks rolling through there, but I did get to see a portrait drawn by Robert De Niro Sr., and that was only interesting because I like this son as an actor. But it was cool, like that was cool. But the actual art museum itself was weird. There was a couple things that I really liked. Speaking of photography, I saw an exhibit by Sebastián Salgado called Migrations, and it was awesome. If you're ever into photography, you should check them out. Anyway, So I'm working at the Berkeley Art Museum, literally counting people, like it has little sheets, and you have to count the people that go into the gallery every hour, and it's like one person, you know, or on a Wednesday, or that was the shifts I had at work. It's $10 an hour. What is that, when you work and you get paid work study? It was work study. So I'm working at the Berkeley Art Museum, and I'm about to sign out, and this Chicano cat comes in, and you could tell he's a transfer, cause you know he's still like, he's got the hood in him. He just came out, you know what I'm saying? And he's like in his mid to late 20s, you know what I'm saying? And he speaks the lingo, and he comes in and he starts talking. And he's like, man, I'm gonna go to Brazil. And then he starts talking with the other dude that works at the art museum, and they're like, oh yeah, I'm like, yeah, man. You just gotta speak Portuguese, and it's easy, it's just like Spanish. And I was like, damn, my ears got all big. And then, so I was like, really, Portuguese? So I looked it up, so I knew I was gonna go somewhere, and then boom, that was it. I was like, I'm gonna go to Brazil. So for 2 years, I took Portuguese, and it is like Spanish, and it's not when you get over it. So I took 2 years. And this is like grammar. I ended up getting a minor in Portuguese. And so this whole time I'm gearing up to go to Brazil. I go to Brazil, and then you know, I know a little more Portuguese than the other folks. I got just 6 weeks. So you know, I had political debates, and you know, we're talking the whole gamut. We're talking culture, and it's cool. People think I'm from there. And they're like, where are you from? And I'm like, well, I'm Mexican. Oh, you live in Mexico? No, I live in the United States. Oh, you're American, but you don't look American. So there's this cross-cultural thing, you know what I mean? So anyway, I'm in Brazil, and then I do the first 6 months. So I went for a year. I said, I'm just gonna go. Who cares? So I go for a year, and then the first 6 months pass, and it's amazing. I took this documentary film class and a photography class, and it's great. I made this short film with one of my buddies about street children, and it was just cool. You could reinvent yourself. But really, when people say reinvent themselves, it just means do what you've always dreamt that you were gonna do, but you were too scared to do. There's no reinvention. It's just it's just you being that thing. That little spark, that little light that's always inside you. So anyway, I have a younger brother, he's 8 years younger than me. And I have an older sister, she's 7 years older than me. And she could have been his teenage mom, you know? So there's a big gap right there between my older sister and my younger brother. So, of course, I tell my mom, I said, hey, send my brother to Brazil. And she's like, hell yeah, you know, 5 weeks, I don't have to worry about him, because he was getting into some trouble. She knew he was going to be with Big Brother, and it was going to be all good. Little did she know. So you know how people say things and they get to my head and then I just do it? So a week, to my brother's detriment, a week before he came, one of the girls in my cohort, she had just gotten back from Machu Picchu. And if you know Machu Picchu, it's in Peru, and it's like a straight shot from the coast, the east coast of Rio de Janeiro, and the Pacific coast, the other coast on the other side. I'm sorry, I'm looking at the map like this, but you're probably looking at it this anyway. So she said, yeah, it's badass, Machu Picchu. You go up and there's these heavy rocks and the Incas and super badass stuff. So it just got in my head, you know? So my brother came, and I met him in Bahia. So Bahia's in the north, and this is 2004. And he comes in, he flies into Rio, and then we fly to Bahia, and I meet my sister, my brother. Anyway, everything's all good. And then my sister and my brother-in-law leave, and it's just him and I. And he doesn't know what's about to happen. He sees the beach, he's in heaven. You know, he brought his mitt and his baseball playing at midnight on the sand, it's great. If you've never been to Rio de Janeiro, you should go. It's one of the most beautiful places in the world. because of the people, you know? So, so we're there, and I was like, hey bro, I was like, we're gonna go to Machu Picchu. He's like, what? He's like, where's that? And I was like, it's kind of far, you know? It's like thousands of miles. And he doesn't know. So the next day, we're at my friend Dana's house, and I was like, hey, so tell me about the trip. I was like, she's like, okay, so you gotta take a bus, and then there's like a little lake, and you gotta get a boat, and then there's like moto taxis, and there's like a train, and then there's like, you know, all this stuff. And I was like, why don't you just go straight? Like, why did you go all the way around? You should just go straight. I was looking at the map, and she's like, I don't know, bro, because of the Andes Mountains. I was like, oh, okay. So I didn't really know much about doing that stuff. So my brother's like, okay, whatever. You know, I have the money, so I'm rationing him. So he has to come with me. So we roll. We get on a 24-hour bus ride to the central part of Brazil, and then we take another bus ride. The buses are super nice, they're like leather, the kind you can recline all the way back. The buses are always nicer in other countries, I don't know why. Anyway, side note. So we get on the bus, and then we get to the border. We stay at a hostel. You know, they give us watermelon, you know, like the day before, they're big on fruit, and it's amazing. And then I'm like, okay, so how do we get to the next part, you know? I think it was Cochabamba, right there in Bolivia. And they're like, oh, okay, just walk that way and then take the motor taxi and get off. I was like, all right, cool. You know, I'm used to the border here. It's like a big ass fence. You gotta do like a zigzag, like you're on Lombard in San Diego. And there's like cars and all this stuff. So we go, and then we roll up, and it's like a little house. And we almost passed it. So I go back, I think that was it. And the dude comes out, it's like totally like out of a movie. And he's like, oh, where are you guys going? He's like, oh, we have our passports. He's like, do you want a stamp, or it doesn't really matter? We're like, yeah, bro, give us a stamp. That's what we came for. So he gives us a stamp. He charges us, I don't even know what it was, a couple bolivianos. And then we go, and there's this train track. Like, you have to take the train. So we take the motor taxi to the train. The train's gonna get us to Santa Cruz, which is like the bigger city in Bolivia. And then we go from there. So there's this train, and there's nobody there, just a couple folks. And then I go to pay for the tickets, and they're like, do you want, you know, regular, first class, or like VIP? And I was like, well, what's the difference? It's like, well, you know, regular is like $1, you know. First class is like $1.50, and VIP is like $2. And I was like, who's gonna go VIP all the way, baby? You know what I'm saying? Just the dollar was a lot farther over there. So we go VIP all the way. We're getting ready. We're like, man, when's the train coming? So the train starts to come, and then all of a sudden, all along the tracks, you see like stacks of merchandise, sacks, just appear out of nowhere. And like people start coming, and then the train comes. I was like, oh, that's interesting. I've never seen that before. So the train comes, and it's a commuter train. And then all of a sudden, you think, like, train usually got a station and stops. This thing just kind of like rolled to like a brisk jog, and then it kept going. And then we're like, whoa, all of a sudden, we see like the local folks are tossing their kids through the window into the train, and then they're running alongside, and they're throwing the merchandise through the window, and the kids are like, stacking it up. So they're just stacking it up. I'm like, whoa, this is crazy. So I start running, and I grab my brother, and we're running. And there's a gang of like Bolivianos in front of us, and they run hella fast. So we had to run faster, we had to throw a couple elbows in, and I get on, and I look back, and my brother's getting trampled. So I'm like, hey bro, bust the juke or something. Like, you gotta speed it up. Like, this thing's not gonna stop. So finally, you know, I had to throw a couple bubbles, and I finally got him on, you know? So finally get him on. And we're tripping out. Like, the VIP was like, the only thing that made it VIP was that it wasn't stacked up with like mercancía all the way to the top. Because when we looked in the back, in the little window, you could see people's feet from how high they had stacked the merchandise. And it was just a little kid, like a bunch of little kids walking back and forth. So before we realized what happened, it was like, I guess people buy a ticket for a seat, and they stack it up with merchandise. and then they take it to Santa Cruz, or the next big town. So we're on this like never-ending train because it goes through the night. It was supposed to be like 9 hours, and it'll be like 15 hours. And sometimes the train would stop in the middle of the night, in the middle of nowhere, and we'd be woken up, and my seat had a hole in it, but it was leather, VIP. So then we go, and then the person on the train was like, si no sueltan la mitad de la mercancía, vamos a soltar el tren de atrás. So if you don't give up half of your merchandise, we're gonna let the train go. And then it stops, and they started going backwards. I was like, when does the train go backwards? It's not right. There's only one rail. It's gonna crash. Somehow we make it to Santa Cruz, okay? We make it to Santa Cruz, and they're like, and we're like, okay, we need the next bus right out to the next town. And they're like, no bus rides, we're on a referendum because we're gonna vote, everything stops. So we're like, damn. So we get kind of stuck, because I don't really know how long it's gonna take to get there. I'm just trying to get there so I can try to figure out how much time it's gonna take to get back. So we're at this bus station, and this dude comes up, he's like, hey, I'll take you guys, just roll in my truck. I didn't know it was like a paletero truck with seats bolted into it, you know what I'm saying? Everything was all close. So I was like, cool, let's do it. So we pay him, it's $1, $2, whatever. We get on this like a paletero truck. And then we're all stacked in, there's people like in the middle of the aisles and stuff. And then we start to roll out, and then boom, like these 2 military cars roll up, they stop, they pull like AR-15s, and they're like pointing like, this isn't going nowhere, they kick us all off, and I'm like, aw. So we have to stay in Santa Cruz for a night. So we stayed for a night. I played Street Fighter with some little Bolivian kid, and he beat me like 6 times. So we spent the night, and then we get on to the next town. We get onto the next town, and then we're on this bus, and they stop. They put rocks on the bus because I think it was in Peru already. We were in Peru, and they were on strike. It was the 14th of July strike. Just all over Peru, they were striking. And so they stopped our bus. They put rocks. They stopped us at gunpoint with what's the name? They stopped us at gunpoint with some rifles, like old rifles with bayonets. And they're like, we're gonna charge you. And I was like, all right, damn, how much? They're like, $1. Like, come on, bro, ask for more. You're gonna put a gun in my face, at least $5, $10, $20. I was on a bus with tourists. Like, make it worth it. So finally, we get there, and then boom, like everything is shut down because of that 14th of July thing is going on. And then I just told my bro, I was like, hey bro, we've been traveling for like 9 days. We might have to turn back. I was like, the only thing left to do is like stay an extra couple days, and then, because the trains are stopped too much, we'll beat you into a bus. One of the buses that goes up like had fallen the week before. And we're all dirty, and it was super cold in Cusco. By the time we got to Cusco, and the shower was like a little spout of water that would like come out, and like it would just go along the wall. So you had like, get some hot water like this, put it on face. We've been traveling for so long. There was like a gap under the door, like this big. So you're literally like hugging on the wall, like in a standing fetal position. You don't want it to stop. So finally, I get there, and then I get all sick. I'm like super sick. I have like a fever, and I'm just like debilitated. The altitude when we got to Bolivia, La Paz, Bolivia, the altitude is crazy. We stayed in a hotel over there. It smelled like paint thinner. We were like, it was crazy. So we get finally to this hostel in Cusco, and I'm like, hey bro, we might have to turn back. The guy from the hostel comes, he's like, oh, estás malo, you're sick, let me give you some tea. I drink this tea. 2 hours later, I was like like better, like nothing happened. It was a té de coca. It was amazing. It was seriously incredible. I could see why they would ban it here. 'Cause you would never need anything else. I sweat it all out. So we're there, and I'm better. And I go, what do you think, Danny? Like, should we go back? And he just looks at me, and he goes, you brought me all the way out here on that beach train. I smell the paint thinner still in my lungs. We walked all the way out here. Chest hurts. And we're not gonna go to Machu Picchu. And then he said, we're staying and we're going. So we went and it was badass. And that's my story. Thank you.
That was Freddie, everybody. What a Wow. So before I introduce our next performer, a beautiful, talented artist, Crystal Gonzalez, I want to tell a quick story, really quick. And that's because Freddie's story inspired me because he was talking about his brother, and I just remember, me inspiré porque digo, voy a decir una historia de mi hermana, que también vino desde Denver. Bueno, I'm going to tell a quick story about my sister. Cuando estábamos chicas, when we were little, we were forbidden from wearing the same clothes. No, se nos prohibía ponernos las mismas ropas. Y porque yo estaba gordita y ella estaba flaquita, y si yo me ponía su ropa, pues se la hacía guarda. If I wore her clothes, I would make it all loose because I was this big chubby girl. She was a skinny girl. Then I came to the United States, and I had all this money, I had all this money for clothes, and I felt so cool. And I tell her, don't wear my clothes! And she's like, yeah, no voy a ver tu ropa. ¿Quién quiere tu ropa? Tu ropa está re fea. No me dijo eso, pero... Y un día, no te pones mi ropa, no. I go to the store or somewhere, and I'm wearing the blouse, and she's wearing the skirt of the same suit. I was like, I told you not to wear my clothes. You're wearing the same things. I'm wearing right now in the street. Anyway, it was funny. I think my sister's enjoying it very much. I love you, sister. Te quiero mucho, hermanita. And now, Crystal Gonzalez, everybody, please give it up for her. She's an amazing artist of the Alisal.
Estoy chaparrita, let me adjust. Fancy. Hold on, there it is. Buenas noches, good evening. Hello, my name is Cristal Gonzalez. Hola. I see some familiar faces, but also new faces, so thank you for allowing me into your space this evening. I'm going to share some writings that I kind of started looking at again. Voy a compartir con ustedes algunas escrituras que llevo tiempo sin verlas, pero creo que hablan de nuestra realidad actualmente. Este se llama Migrante, and my writing by default, sometimes it goes straight into English or sometimes it's just Spanish, and then it likes to flip around, so just bear with me. Migrante, immigrant, limited, in between Spanish y el inglés, not mastering either, porque el inglés no se escucha en la casa, no se entiende. Y el español isn't practiced in school, only whispered entre amigos conocidos. Conversaciones limitadas, porque el inglés se habla con un acento, el español con vergüenza. En los dos lugares me siento perdido. Timid voices, closed bodies, imagination shut down, preconditioned to being invisible, porque solo así sigo vivo. Soy migrante. No hay mucho en casa, nunca lo he oído. Mis padres trabajan noche y día, manos pesadas, pasos cansados, zapatos enlodados. Y no hay suficiente. Limited, migrante. Raised to have no say, raised to have no opinion of the opinions of me, raised to have no question of the questioning of my identity. Porque soy migrante y aquí no existo, solo sobrevivo, pero no vivo. That's the first one, called Migrante. And this one came about, it's actually fairly new that I wrote it, but I struggled a lot in school because in my home we only spoke Spanish. My mom only speaks to this day only Spanish, and at school I was forced and fed handfuls of English. And in either place I didn't feel like I belonged because somehow in translation I kept missing the point of both languages. And as a facilitator now in the community, I recognize the struggle that our immigrant children are going through. So recently in a workshop, that poem came about after a challenging facilitation workshop that I had with them. This one's called Alexis, y este va a ser en puro español, so just hopefully you feel my vibrations if you're limited to your Spanish. Un dinerazo para llegar a ese lado, pero aún así no todos llegamos en un pedazo. Ahora visitamos el corredor de San José, donde corre por millas en dos direcciones distintas, con dos distintos futuros, con dos distintos finales. Miradas confundidas, la defensa hasta los cielos, ya no saben a quién confiar o quién los va a matar. El enemigo y el amigo tienen la misma cara. Un abrazo caluroso desean, palabras de consuelo y no se encuentran. Cuerpos deshidratados como fruta tumbada del árbol, acalorizada por el sol mexicano. ¿Y cómo es del otro lado? Alexis me pregunta. Él es de Honduras, el más pequeño y el líder del grupo de 12 hombres y una mujer. Lo miro y no le quiero mentir. Es una lucha diaria, el camino es largo y solo comienza al llegar. De los dos lados la gente tiene hambre. Ambos respiramos profundamente. ¿Cuánto llevas de camino? Le pregunto. ¿Un mes? 2 semanas, 3 días, él responde. La defensa comienza a caer lentamente y sus ojos negros revelan su claridad, esperanza y también el miedo que llevan de no llegar. Examino sus rostros, algunos son niños y el miedo no lo saben ocultar, aunque quisieran. En su caminar se han convertido en adultos y han visto mucha corrupción. Los corazones palpitan, pero el miedo corre por las venas. La bestia le llaman, el tren que ve miles de cara, que carga la esperanza de millones. La bestia escucha los sueños de muchos, es cómplice en verlos morir. Cuerpos tira por su camino. Ella no se detiene por nadie, es tu amiga y tu enemiga. El migrante solo es otro rostro, sin rostro. La bestia no escoge quién se sube, solo carga a los decididos. caras de hambre, zapatos rotos, pies desangrándose, manos esclavizadas a un mañana muy distante. Pero aún así, Alexis ríe, llora, acepta un abrazo y comparte sus sueños. Yo voy a llegar a Nueva York y a trabajar. ¿Es bonito? Un migrante en búsqueda de un mañana mirando hacia las vías del tren, esperando a su bestia. Alexis, un compañero hondureño, esperando a la bestia a que lo lleve hacia su destino. Thank you. It was interesting to see that we didn't plan this, but all of us kind of talked a little bit about migration and about las vías del tren, and we're in the room for a reason. So this one was one that I hadn't shared ever, so the last two I haven't shared to a public, so thank you. For those that didn't catch it, it was speaking of an experience that I had when I was performing in las vías del tren, where they refer to it as la bestia, but it's really the train that a lot of migrants jump on to cross to the United States, and we were there performing, and I came across this amazing gentleman named Alexis from Honduras, who shared his story, and I have a vivid memory of him here in my head, so I hope he hears me tonight as well. I'm wishing him well. This next one is called Camino, but it's actually in English, so if you want to translate Camino, it's called walk. I walk, one step after the other. With each step, my feet lift up dirt and more dirt. Each step forward is heavier than the last. It's 6 in the morning, and my body resents the cold morning exhales of the apple orchards. It's been some time now that I've walked with my legs covered in mud, but it's now, in the midst of the open fields, smelling the richness of the wet dirt, walking towards my aging father, that I reflect on all the dirt I've carried for so many years, and how much pain it has brought me. I walk looking for my father, but also for myself, the young girl that still runs around these orchards next to her father. As I wave from afar to my dad, I begin to cry, and I begin to feel angry. Angry for him leaving, angry for the years passing, angry for my silence, angry for not knowing how to forgive him, angry for the love I have for Papa. As Papa comes closer, I have the urge to tell him everything. Me hicieron daño, papi, y tú no estabas. I needed you, and you were nowhere to be found. Me hicieron daño, papi, and you weren't home. With my legs exhausted and my chest shivering, I say nothing. Instead, I walk next to him, attempting to understand his life in the fields, his life away from us, his life. Somewhere in the loose dirt, the blistering heat, singing and joking, the stretch between apple orchards to the paved streets to his home. I don't recognize my father, and he doesn't recognize me, his daughter. The roots stand, but our branches have grown apart. Thank you. That's kind of it. I talked about my dad. I should talk about my mother. I'm going to close it up with this one. Thank you. Mi madre, a beautiful spirit with an exaggerated laughter. During her teen years, she wanted nothing more than to be a nun. She admired their grace, but she feared my grandparents' judgments. Es que se quedó con sus deseos silenciosamente. Mama was brought up Catholic, and her faith has always been her strength. La Virgen de Guadalupe, her loyal confidant, and her rosary, her weapon in life. Mommy, like me, enjoys the company of strangers. We would pick up gente que acababa de llegar too often. It usually happened when we would go to La Esperanza meat market. Right after paying el mandado, we would head home with bags of grocery and a handful of compañeros. There was always an extra taco de frijol to offer our fellow Mexicanos. Vénganse, vamos a la casa para que coman un taco, Mama would tell them. And they would follow us into the car without saying a word, just a humble nod. A total of 6 sometimes, including Mama y yo, rumbo al apartamento. The beat-up blue 90s Taurus Ford that looked more like a lowrider, carrying too much weight. The smell of sweat and dirt clogging up the windows. Empty stomachs humming, timid compañeros singing along to the melancholy voice of Ana Gabriel. On the radio, and sighing entre canciones. And if that wasn't enough to get some stares, the B word that had been carved into the hood of our car by some cholas that we lived in the middle two apartments before gave our carrazo the final touch. Slow but proud, the lowrider Ford drove down Main Street and turned onto Rodriguez Street, 3 blocks away from La Esperanza. I question if the recién llegados de Mexico would go to La Esperanza, which means hope in English, but where they were hopeful life would take a different route in los Estados Unidos. Mom slowly got out of the car, made her way into the apartment, with her walker sustaining her desire to help others. Meanwhile, I would run into the apartment, warm up some frijoles and tortillas de maíz, cut some queso fresco mexicano in cuadritos largos, and smell the chile rojo to make sure it wasn't past due. Before I knew it, lunch was ready. In essence, that was my mother, always taking the opportunity to help others, dando lo poco que teníamos, porque donde come uno, 5 pueden comer. Mi madrecita, a reflection of forgiveness, compassion, y amor. A mujer warrior, wounded, but fighting her ache courageously. I sit here and wonder, when did she surrender her fight? And why didn't I see it? Madre, te quiero. That was it. Thank you. Thank you so much for having me.
Crystal Gonzalez, beautiful poet. Thank you so much, Crystal, for your work, for sharing with us your experiences. As you can see, we have beautiful communities that sometimes we have a lot of pain, and sharing our pain through words, it's always very healing. La cultura cura. So this is what we're doing right now. We're curándonos en salud. Our next performance is by one of my favorite people in the world. She is an amazing writer, artist, and it's going to be a podcast, and this is in the tradition of our pop-up events. Part of what we do with our Voices pop-up events is we bring to life the magazine, right? So right now what we're going to do is bring to life, it's not the podcast? That's what it says here. No?
Not me.
Who's the podcast artist?
Maybe Salinas Underground?
No, there's a podcast schedule here. Julie?
No.
No? Okay, so then we don't have a podcast.
That was a really lovely introduction. Thank you so much.
Okay, well then, our next performance then is Joe by default, and I don't see Joe. Oh yes, I see Joe. Okay, well, it's also in the tradition of Voices, when we have pop-up events, we bring the magazine to life, and this piece in particular is a piece that is very beautiful, very exciting that we had it. It was just published in this last edition of Voices of Monterey Bay, and it was written by the amazing Joe Livernois, and here he is. Thank you, Joe.
I could pretend like this is a podcast. Do some pretending. So I was just going to get up and read this, but it occurred to me after listening to Jesus that I have a few things to say about the story based on what Jesus did. Is Jesus still here? Oh, then never mind. So this is condensed from a story that ran this week in Voices of Monterey Bay, and it's condensed. It's very. This is the story itself is a long read, what they call a long read, and this is a very short part of it. And it's called A Bright and Shining Year at Alisal High. Diosdado Gica arrived in Salinas from the Philippines at the age of 12, a stranger with no grasp of the languages being spoken around him. The expectation of going to college wasn't really in my realm of possibilities, Gica said during a recent telephone interview from his office in New York City with a view of the World Trade Center. When Gica arrived at Alisal High School in the 1980s, expectations weren't high for anyone, he said. Students were mostly children of low-wage farm workers. His father was a truck driver in the fields. Alisal was a factory that churned out migrant workers, he said. Gica took English as a second language classes throughout high school and barely understood what teachers were trying to tell him in the other classes. He said he felt like Charlie Brown in the classroom, and all he heard from his teachers was whack, 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 whack. Gica ended up in George Shirley's social science class his senior year. Shirley, he said, put all these remarkable ideas into my head. He was the first person to make me think beyond my own limitations. Shirley was an aggressive, single-minded type who could somehow make a kid believe that they could achieve the impossible. His brief tenure at Alisal High became the stuff of legend, and his unceremonious dismissal from the school despite his successes generated a cycle of national news stories. News stories out of Alisal, the sort of stories Alisal School District didn't want to hear. He rocked the boat, Gica told me, but good for him. In 1986, the 1 year that Shirley taught at Alisal High, 84 of the school's 225 seniors ended up going to a four-year college. Many ended up at Ivy League schools and private liberal arts colleges across the country. Gica said Shirley instilled the sense that he deserved better, that opportunity was around the corner. I can still see him in my mind getting in my face, Gica told me. Gica was barely proficient in English, and his GPA was abysmal. Yet, where am I? Oh. Yet Shirley convinced him that he should apply for admission to 10 different colleges and universities outside of California. It was like he was dreaming of something on my behalf, he said. Gica was accepted to Wabash College, a small liberal arts college for men in Crawfordsville, Indiana. It was a bold move for Gica, running off to a tiny town in middle America when he could hardly speak English. Bolder still because his parents, traditional Catholics who worried about losing their son, were dead set against it. I had a huge fight with my family, Gica told me, and I had to run away from home. I didn't talk to my family for 2 years. He earned a degree at Wabash in 4 years and found jobs teaching in Indiana and in New York City. He later earned his master's from the City University of New York and then a doctorate in philosophy from Fordham. In addition to his work as an adjunct professor at City College of New York, He is also a funding specialist for nonprofits. He also developed and launched the New Americans Initiative for the YMCA of Greater New York. The program serves new immigrants and teaches them English as a second language. Teaching is a way of giving back, a tribute to George Shirley. Mr. Shirley really looms large in my life, he said. What he did was an experiment, a risky experiment, but it was worth it. Not everyone from the Alisal class of '86 is willing to give Shirley all the credit. Some told me that the students from that particular class were already advanced academically before Shirley even showed up. One AHS student graduate who went on to a prestigious Ivy League university would not even speak to me about her experience. She evidently worried that the slant of my story would portray Shirley as some sort of hero who worked miracles to the benefit of kids who were headed nowhere. So many other teachers went out of their way to support our dreams. Way before Mr. Shirley joined AHS, she told me, and those teachers should also be acknowledged. I covered George Shirley's meteoric and troubled tenure at Alisal when I was a much younger reporter for a local daily newspaper in 1986. Even then, I wondered whether Shirley was just another white guy with a savior complex who made enemies unnecessarily because he thought that's the only way to achieve his goals. Shirley had consciously betrayed the staff and administration at Alisal as indifferent educators who assumed the worst from their students. He used the tactic to whip up sympathy on behalf of college applicants among university recruiters. It worked. But the tactic assumed systemic racism and it generated resentments among administrators and other teachers at the school. Could it have been that bad in 1986? I don't like to be cynical about these sort of things, but you couldn't help but wonder. In the end, though, it really didn't matter what I thought then, and it doesn't matter what I think now. The fact is, Dio Geeka earned a doctorate and now lives a happy and productive life in New York City, and he attributes his success to Shirley. George Shirley was born in Indiana, but spent his childhood in Tennessee, a self-described hillbilly who earned a law degree at the University of Denver in 1966. He was a social justice warrior out of school. He campaigned for George McGovern, fighting for the oil rights of reservation Indians, and lobbying in Washington and in Sacramento for civil rights and environmental groups. He was supervising attorney for the CRLA here in Salinas for a time in the 1970s, and he ended up in Monterey, where he set himself up as a private trial lawyer. He kept a busy caseload, much of it pro bono, and in late 1983, he suffered a breakdown outside the county courthouse, waking up in the hospital the next day. After he recovered, Shirley got work as a substitute teacher for the Salinas Union High School District. He was later offered a one-year contract to teach government at Alisal. He was 46 years old at the time. He made an immediate impression, though not such a favorable one to school administrators. Dramatically, he ripped up the outdated history textbook issued to the class and tossed it in the garbage can. He instead spent a year using the U.S. Constitution as his teaching manual. He invited guest speakers to class, had his students read newspapers, and they discussed current affairs. Another class requirement, he demanded that each of his students apply to at least 10 colleges and universities outside of California. After months of waiting, acceptance letters started pouring in. Students were being accepted to Ivy League universities and small liberal arts colleges in huge numbers. Administrators marveled at their successes, noting that only 9 Alisal students had gone on to four-year schools the previous year. But as the story of this incredible class spread, it all took a bad turn for Shirley. School administrators became increasingly alarmed when Shirley suggested publicly that these teachers and administrators had been holding students back, telling college recruiters that Alisal deprived most students of a quality education. He was unapologetic about his severe criticisms of the school. "We're creating a nation of service people," Shirley said. "I want to turn out doctors and lawyers, not busboys." When he received notification that his contract would not be renewed on the same day he was named Teacher of the Month at Alisal, administrators would not give a reason. For rumors had circulated that Shirley had psychological problems. There was talk that he mismanaged a student field trip to Washington, D.C., leaving the school with a $6,000 tab. There were also rumors that he had written a lot of the college application essays himself, which turns out to be a no-no. His successes and his termination became a brief media sensation. The Los Angeles Times wrote a long story. People magazine did a piece that featured a photograph of Shirley standing in a lettuce field, his students standing behind him. NBC did a segment on nightly news that talked to him and a couple of the students. After leaving Alisal, George Shirley stewed over what he considered the injustice of his termination, and for a while considered a lawsuit against the district to get his job back. He also pitched a story around Hollywood, but Stand and Deliver, the true story about an inner city teacher named Jaime Escalante, was released in 1988, and it had a happier ending. Shirley eventually died of cancer at a Sacramento home in 2004. Meanwhile, during my telephone interview with Gika from his office in New York, Gika assured me that he eventually made amends with his family. The family moved to Modesto, and he visited them as often as they could. After he graduated from Wabash, his parents asked him for his college diploma. They told him they wanted to frame it for him. They hung the diploma on their living room wall, and they wouldn't give it back. So, Gio Gika is one of several incredible stories that I was so blessed to be able to tell in the story in Voices of Monterey Bay. And if you go to Voices of Monterey Bay, you'll be able to read the entire story and read about some of the other incredible students from the class of '86, many of whom came back to Salinas. We have a couple of doctors in Salinas today from that class of '86. We have many educators from that class of '86, including the aforementioned Manuel Lopez that Jesus had talked about and was not real happy with originally, because Manuel Lopez was always telling him to do his homework and telling him to do this and telling him to do that. But Manny Lopez was one of the people that I interviewed in the story, and he's got an amazing story. They all do. There's a million stories in the city I found, and it seems like a lot of them came out of the class of '86. So thank you very much.
Joe Luminois, everybody. Joe Luminois has lived and worked in Salinas and Monterey County for many, many years, and he is an amazing storyteller. He's also helping us mentor our new generation of storytellers, and we're very honored and proud to have him as part of our team. And we are very glad for him to be. Vamos a cerrar con broche de oro. He's our broche de oro, our last performance of the night. This evening has come to a close. Thank you everybody for being here, for all the love, for the attention you gave to all of our performers, to the support that you give to us. There's still some food that you want to take. Is there any announcements before we go? And if you feel so inclined, give us some donations for Alisal Center for Fine Arts, Baktun 12, and Voices of Monterey Bay. And you said we have announcements?
Is Javier still here? Chato? I think the main announcement that we wanted to put out there, number one, if anyone can go on your Facebook, on your app on your phone, if you could check in that you attended this event now or tonight at some point, that would be really helpful. We want to, again, please acknowledge the Alisal Center for the Fine Arts for opening up this place. Please give a round of applause for please look them up on Facebook. Several community classes for the entire community, all ages, especially for students. And we got Javier. If you want to, can you come up? Ruben asked me to put you on the spot and give a few words just about the programming here at ACFA. Javier Tamayo, ladies and gentlemen.
Hello everybody, good evening. Thank you guys for joining us this evening. My name is Javier and I'm the program manager here, and I'd just like to share with you that we have ongoing classes throughout the year. We have classes in guitar, theater, traditional regional Mexican music. Right now we're studying son jarocho. We also have a world music drumming class. We have visual arts and baile folklorico. So if you guys are interested, or any any children who are interested that live in this community, we're more than happy if you want to recommend them, we'll be more than happy to help them out. Any questions? How many of you guys have been here before? How many of you guys, this is your first time? First timers, wow, that's awesome. Welcome. We hope that you guys return. We have many events here, so if you guys are on social media, if you're on Facebook, Instagram, or Snapchat, we have all of those. Like us and check out our events. We have an event every second Saturday of the month. So if you guys like what you see, I'm sure we'll be inviting Baktun 12 and Claudia back whenever they'd like to come back. This is, and like we like to say, mi casa es tu casa. So welcome everybody and make yourselves at home. Thank you.
Another quick announcement, Voices of Monterey Bay has an art auction on August 23rd at Jardines de San Juan. We have over 60 pieces of Mexican art, many of them vintage, very beautiful. We have just received word that we got a painting donated by the amazing artist Manuel Santana, who lived in Santa Cruz County for many years. His art is very rare because it's not really on the market. So this would be a great opportunity to get one of his paintings. So if you have time, energy, and desire to support the great causes, please join us. The proceeds from the auction will benefit Voices of Monterey Bay, the Watson Film Festival, and Terra Home. And I think that's it.
That's all, folks.